I'm Madeline, 29 years old, and I've spent my entire life trying to be the perfect daughter. I did everything to earn my mother's approval, but nothing was ever enough. When I fell seriously ill, I expected sympathy. Instead, lying weak in my childhood bed, I heard the words that shattered my world. I hate everything about you. That moment changed everything. I was broken, but somehow found the strength to stand up and do something that would forever alter our relationship. If you're watching this video, I'd love to know where you're from. Please hit that like button, subscribe, and get ready for a story about finding your voice when you're at your weakest. My childhood in our middle-class Boston neighborhood started out happy enough. Mom Janet seemed proud of me in those early years. I have faded photos of her beaming as I took my first steps, blew out birthday candles, and performed in kindergarten plays. She'd brush my long brown hair each night singing softly. "You're my beautiful girl," she'd say. Everything changed when I turned 7. It was my school art show, and I'd painted a colorful landscape that my teacher had praised. Mom studied it with narrowed eyes. "The trees aren't proportional, Madeline," she said, "and that house looks crooked. You need to pay more attention to detail." My excitement deflated like a punctured balloon. From that day forward, nothing I did quite measured up. Dad John was different, warm, encouraging, but ultimately powerless against Mom's domineering personality. He'd wink at me across the dinner table when she started criticizing his silent way of saying, "Don't let it get to you." But he never actually stood up to her. "Your father doesn't understand that the world rewards excellence," Mom would say. "I'm just preparing you." My younger brother Tyler somehow escaped her critical eye. 3 years younger than me, he seemed blessed with an immunity I never possessed. His messy room was boyish charm. His average grades were finding his own path. My similar behaviors were labeled as sloppiness and underachieving. "Why can't you be more organized like your brother?" became a familiar refrain, though our rooms looked nearly identical. When I brought home straight A's in middle school, Mom flipped through my report card with a frown. "No extra credit in math, your teacher offers it right." Other students probably took advantage. I joined the debate team, hoping to impress her with trophies. After winning second place in a regional competition, Mom's response was, "The girl who won first must have really prepared." My love for art became my secret sanctuary. I'd sketch late at night, hiding my drawings under my mattress. When Mom found them while cleaning one day, she sighed heavily. "Art is a hobby, Madeline, not a career. Practical people focus on practical skills." Though by high school, I had learned to present a carefully curated version of myself at home. I joined business club and took extra AP classes. I straightened my naturally wavy hair because Mom thought it looked more professional. I wore the preppy clothes she bought me instead of the vintage style I loved. Through it all, I dreamed of art school. My high school art teacher, Ms. Garcia, told me I had real talent and helped me assemble a portfolio. When acceptance letters came from both business programs and art schools, including a scholarship to Rhode Island School of Design, I tentatively showed Mom the RISD letter. "Art school." She laughed as though I'd suggested becoming a professional bubble blower. "Don't throw away your potential on a fantasy. Boston University's business program will give you a real future." Dad found me crying in my room later. "Maybe you should follow your passion," he suggested weakly. "You know how Mom gets," I replied. He nodded, patted my shoulder, and left without another word of support. The next day, I sent my acceptance to Boston University's business program, watching as my hands sealed away the life I actually wanted. College should have been my time to break free, but old patterns are hard to shake. Boston University's red brick buildings and leafy paths became my home for 4 years, with Mom checking in almost daily about my grades, professors, and study habits. "Business administration is practical," she reminded me constantly. "You'll thank me someday." What Mom didn't know was that I had registered for an evening art class each semester. The campus art studio became my sanctuary, with its north-facing windows and smell of turpentine and possibility. Those 3 hours each week kept me sane as I trudged through marketing principles and accounting basics. "You have a distinctive style," my painting professor told me. "Have you considered changing majors?" I just shook my head, too afraid to even voice the desire. During sophomore year, I met Michael in a coffee shop near campus. He noticed me sketching instead of working on the business proposal open on my laptop. "That's really good," he said, gesturing toward my drawing. "Are you an art major?" His genuine interest caught me off guard. With his warm brown eyes and easy smile, Michael quickly became the first person I truly opened up to about my mother and my suppressed dreams. "Your art is amazing," he said after I showed him my hidden portfolio. "Your mother is wrong." Those four simple words felt revolutionary. Our relationship blossomed over the next 2 years. Michael, a computer science major with a passion for graphic design, understood both the practical and creative sides of life. He didn't think they had to be mutually exclusive. When graduation approached, Mom was already networking to find me suitable employment. Barbara from my tennis club says the marketing firm her son works at is hiring. Starting salary is decent, and there's room for advancement. I took the job, of course. The downtown office, with its gray cubicles and fluorescent lighting, became my weekday prison. I'd come home exhausted, too drained to even sketch anymore. "It gets better once you climb the ladder a bit," Mom assured me during our weekly Sunday dinners at their house. These meals were exercises in restraint, as she critiqued everything from my work performance to my appearance. "Your hair looks unprofessional with those split ends," or "that apartment you chose is in a declining neighborhood," or "when Michael takes you to dinner, you should order something more sophisticated than pasta." Michael would squeeze my hand under the table during these dinners, his touch reminding me I wasn't alone anymore. After a year of saving money and enduring Mom's constant monitoring, I finally found an apartment across town. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. "You're moving out." Mom looked betrayed when I told her. "That's very impulsive. You should stay home another year and save more money." "I'm 23, Mom. It's time." "Well, don't expect us to help when you can't make rent." She sniffed. The day I moved out, Dad slipped me an envelope. "A little housewarming gift," he whispered. Inside was $500 and a note. "Proud of you, kiddo." Mom's criticism didn't stop with my independence. If anything, it intensified. My apartment was too small. My furniture was cheap-looking. My cooking was amateur. During weekly phone calls, she'd find new ways to express disappointment. "Janet from book club says her daughter got promoted after just 6 months at her firm. Aren't you coming up on a year now?" My stomach would knot during these calls, and gradually physical symptoms began to appear. First came the crushing fatigue, then mysterious rashes and joint pain that would flare and recede unpredictably. I blamed stress, poor diet, and long work hours. By my 28th birthday, I was popping ibuprofen like candy and canceling plans with friends due to unexplained illness. Michael urged me to see a doctor. "It's probably just stress," I insisted, though we both knew it was something more. Little did I know that my body was staging a rebellion, one that would eventually force me to do the same. The morning of my 29th birthday dawned gray and drizzly, matching my outlook. I'd been struggling to get out of bed for weeks now, each day a battle against fatigue that sleep couldn't cure. That morning, it took every ounce of strength to shower and dress for work. "You don't look well," Michael said, his forehead creased with worry as he brought me coffee. We'd been living together for almost a year now, his lease ending around the same time I received a promotion that could finally support a better apartment. "I'm fine," I lied, wincing as I reached for the mug. The pain in my joints had intensified over the past month. At work, I could barely focus. Numbers on spreadsheets blurred, and during a client meeting, I excused myself twice to splash cold water on my face, trying to stay alert. My boss noticed. "Madeline, no offense, but you look terrible. Maybe you should see a doctor." I finally made an appointment, expecting a quick diagnosis and prescription. Instead, it became the first of many doctor visits, each more concerning than the last. "Your blood work shows inflammation markers," the first doctor said. "We need to rule out several conditions," said the second. "Let's try this specialist," suggested the third. Through it all, Mom remained skeptically unsympathetic. "Everyone gets tired, Madeline. When I was your age, I was working full-time with 2 children and never complained. Have you tried vitamins?" Michael accompanied me to appointments, while Mom dismissed my symptoms as attention-seeking or exaggeration. She always was sensitive. I overheard her telling my aunt on the phone. 3 months and countless tests later, a rheumatologist finally gave me answers. You have an autoimmune condition, Dr. Patel explained gently. Your immune system is essentially attacking your own tissues. That explains the fatigue, joint pain, and rashes. The diagnosis was both validating and terrifying. There was no quick fix, only management strategies and medications with their own side effects. You'll need to reduce stress and may require a leave of absence from work while we get this under control, Dr. Patel advised. When I called Mom with the news, her response was predictably dismissive. Autoimmune disease. That sounds very convenient. Everyone has something these days. In my time, we just push through. My boss was more understanding, approving a 3-month medical leave. But as my condition worsened during the first month of treatment, Michael became increasingly concerned about me living alone when he traveled for work. What if you need help and I'm not here? He worried after finding me unable to open a jar of pasta sauce due to hand pain. That's when Dad suggested I temporarily move back home. Your mother and I can help while you're recovering, he offered, clearly not consulting Mom first, based on her audible huff in the background. Moving back felt like failure. I'd worked so hard for independence, and now at 29, I was returning to my childhood bedroom with garbage bags of medications and a body that felt decades older than its age. Mom's caregiving style was as critical as her parenting. She'd bring me food but comment on my lack of appetite. She'd drive me to doctor appointments but complain about rearranging her schedule. Each pill I took was accompanied by a skeptical glance. Are you sure you need all these medications? They can't be good for your liver. My childhood bedroom became both sanctuary and prison. I taped up some of my old sketches, much to Mom's disapproval. Those make the room look cluttered, she remarked, but I insisted on keeping them. Michael visited daily, bringing genuine care and concern that contrasted sharply with Mom's reluctant assistance. He'd sit beside me for hours, sometimes working remotely from my room, just to keep me company. Your boyfriend doesn't have a real job, does he? Mom commented after he left one evening. Real jobs don't let you work from just anywhere. The irony that Michael's software development career was far more lucrative than my marketing position seemed lost on her. As weeks passed, the medications began working, but not without side effects. Some days the nausea was so intense I could barely eat. Other days the fatigue was so crushing that even watching TV required too much energy. Through it all, Mom's patience wore increasingly thin, her true feelings seeping through the cracks of her dutiful caretaker facade. The morning everything changed started like any other in my illness haze. I woke feeling particularly awful, a flare-up making every joint scream in protest. The simple act of reaching for my phone to text Michael left me gasping. It would be a bed-bound day one, where even a trip to the bathroom would require strategic planning and gritted teeth. Mom appeared at my door around noon, a bowl of soup in hand. I could tell by her tight expression that it wasn't a good day for either of us. I'll never forget that day. The rain tapped against my window like tiny, impatient fingers, as I lay in bed, my body feeling like it had been run over by a truck. Every joint throbbed, and the familiar weight of exhaustion pressed me into the mattress. The digital clock on my nightstand read 12:17 p.m., and I hadn't managed to do anything but swallow my morning pills. My bedroom door opened without a knock. Mom entered carrying a tray with soup and crackers, her face already set in that expression I knew too well, a mixture of duty and annoyance. Lunch, she announced flatly, setting the tray on my nightstand with a little too much force. Some soup sloshed over the edge of the bowl. Thanks, Mom, I said, trying to inject gratitude into my voice. I struggled to push myself up against the pillows, wincing as pain shot through my wrists. She watched my efforts with thinly veiled impatience. The doctor said movement is important. You've been in bed all morning. It's a bad flare day, I explained, though I knew explanations rarely mattered. Everything hurts more than usual. Mom sighed dramatically. When I had pneumonia 3 years ago, I still managed to get the Christmas decorations up. I bit back a retort about how pneumonia, while serious, eventually ends. My condition was chronic, a concept she consistently refused to grasp. The soup was lukewarm tomato, not the chicken noodle I'd asked for yesterday. I took a spoonful anyway, grateful for any nourishment I could keep down with my medications. The house cleaner canceled. Mom continued straightening items on my dresser that didn't need straightening. Now, I have to reschedule my hair appointment to clean before your father's work colleagues come for dinner Friday. I nodded absently, conserving energy for the task of eating. And Tyler called. He's bringing his new girlfriend home next weekend. I'll need to change the sheets in here if you're still indisposed. She said the last word like my illness was a choice I was making to inconvenience everyone. The soup turned bitter in my mouth. 6 weeks of living here, and she still treated my medically necessary recovery like an extended vacation I was taking at her expense. I'm cold, I said softly, noticing my blanket had slipped down. Could you hand me that extra blanket from the closet? Mom looked at me as if I'd asked her to build me a palace. Really, Madeline, I just got settled downstairs to make calls for the charity auction. Sorry, I mumbled automatically. I can try to get it later. No, no, she said, with exaggerated martyrdom. I'll get it now since I'm already here. She yanked open my closet door and rummaged roughly through the shelves. I don't see it. Where exactly did you put it? Top shelf blue 1. I directed, watching her pulling things down haphazardly. This wouldn't be a problem if you kept things organized, she muttered, dislodging a stack of sweaters I'd carefully folded. They tumbled to the floor. Sorry. I apologized again, feeling that familiar knot of anxiety tightening in my chest. She finally located the blanket and pulled it down with unnecessary force, sending a shoebox of old art supplies crashing. Colored pencils and erasers scattered across the hardwood floor. For heaven's sake, Madeline, she exclaimed, staring at the mess as if I'd created it deliberately. I'll clean it up when I'm feeling better. I promised, though we both knew that could be days, like you cleaned up your career, or your apartment that you're still paying rent on while living here, or that relationship with Michael that's clearly going nowhere after 4 years. The sudden shift from fallen art supplies to my life's supposed failures gave me whiplash. This was classic Mom, using any opening to launch into her catalog of my disappointments. Michael and I are fine, I defended weakly. Are you? Because successful relationships progress, Madeline. At your age, I was married with a mortgage and 2 children. I stared at the ceiling, willing the tears not to come. Could I please just have the blanket? She thrust it at me, her movements jerky with frustration. As I reached for it, my hand spasmed with pain, and I dropped it. Something in her seemed to snap. She stood at the foot of my bed, hands clenched at her sides, face flushed with what looked like decades of disappointment. I have spent my entire life trying to help you succeed, she said, her voice low and shaking. I've given you every advantage, every opportunity. I've sacrificed my time, my career advancement, my personal interests. And what do I get in return? A 29-year-old who can't even hold a blanket, who comes running home at the first sign of trouble, who wastes her potential on sketches that will never pay the bills. I lay there stunned into silence by the intensity of her outburst. Do you know what it's like, she continued, her voice rising, to pour everything into a child who rejects every bit of guidance, who insists on making one poor choice after another, who never seems to appreciate anything? I opened my mouth to defend myself, but she wasn't finished. I am exhausted, Madeline. Exhausted by your neediness, your weakness, your constant failure to launch. She threw her hands up in a gesture of surrender. I hate everything about you. Everything. The way you mope around feeling sorry for yourself, your ridiculous artistic pretensions, your pathetic relationship, your inability to push through difficulty like an adult. The words hung in the air like poison gas. I hate everything about you. My own mother. The person who was supposed to love me unconditionally. She seemed momentarily shocked by her own admission, but instead of apologizing, she doubled down. There, I said it. Maybe now you'll finally wake up and do something with your life instead of expecting everyone to coddle you. With that, she snatched the fallen blanket from the floor, tossed it roughly across my legs, and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I lay in perfect stillness, the soup forgotten, the pain in my joints now secondary to the searing wound her words had inflicted. I hate everything about you. 29 years of trying to earn her approval collapsed into 7 devastating words. For hours, I stared at the ceiling as rain continued to patter against the window, tears silently tracking down my temples and into my hair. I thought about every drawing hidden away, Every authentic desire suppressed every genuine part of myself I'd sacrificed, trying to become someone she could love. What had it gotten me? A body in rebellion, and a mother who hated me anyway. As night fell and the house grew quiet, a strange calm settled over me. The devastation was so complete that something new began to emerge from the ashes: clarity. I couldn't make her love me. I never could. No achievement, no sacrifice, no amount of self-erasure would ever be enough. And in that realization was a terrible freedom. If nothing would ever please her, then maybe it was time to please myself. Morning light filtered through my curtains, casting soft patterns on the wall opposite my bed. I'd barely slept, but something had shifted inside me during those dark hours. The pain in my joints was still there, the fatigue still pressed down on me, but alongside these familiar companions was something new: resolve. My mother's words echoed in my mind. I hate everything about you. If she hated everything about me, then she didn't really know me at all. The real me had been hidden away, suppressed, silenced for so long that perhaps there was nothing left for her to truly hate, except the hollow shell I'd become trying to please her. With trembling hands, I reached for my phone on the nightstand. It was early, not yet 7, but I knew Michael would answer. "Maddie, are you okay?" His voice was thick with sleep, but instantly alert. "No," I whispered, "but I will be. Can you come over? I need your help with something." "I'll be there in 20 minutes, he said, without hesitation. I hung up and began the arduous process of getting out of bed. Every movement sent pain shooting through my joints, but for once I welcomed the physical struggle. It matched the emotional battle I was about to undertake. Standing took 3 attempts. Walking to my dresser required pausing twice to catch my breath. Changing from pajamas to actual clothes nearly defeated me, but 40 minutes later, I had managed to dress in jeans and a sweater, brush my teeth, and pull my hair back. I heard Michael's car pull into the driveway, followed by the distant sound of my mother greeting him downstairs, with her usual passive-aggressive pleasantries. "She's still in bed, I imagine," I heard her say. "She had a rough day yesterday, very emotional." The way she said emotional made it sound like a character flaw rather than a human experience. Michael's footsteps on the stairs were followed by a soft knock on my door. "Come in," I called, sitting up straighter on the edge of my bed. His eyes widened when he saw me dressed and upright. "You're up," he said, closing the door behind him. "In more ways than one," I replied. "I need your help packing my things. I'm leaving today." He crossed the room and knelt in front of me, taking my hands gently in his. "What happened? Your mom said you had a rough day, but she made it sound like you were being dramatic." "She told me she hates everything about me." The words hung between us, stark and unembellished. I watched shock, then anger flash across Michael's face. "She what?" His voice rose slightly. "Shh," I cautioned. "I don't want her to hear us until I'm ready." I squeezed his hands. "Yesterday, she finally said out loud what I think she's felt for years. And you know what? It was actually liberating." Michael looked confused. "Liberating, Maddie? That's a terrible thing for a mother to say." "It is," I agreed. "But it finally freed me from trying to earn her approval. I've spent my whole life trying to become someone she could love, and it's never going to happen. So I'm done trying." The clarity in my voice surprised even me. Michael studied my face for a moment, then nodded. "What do you need me to do?" "Help me pack the essentials. I can't carry much with this flare-up, but I need my medication, some clothes, and my art supplies." For the next hour, we worked quietly and efficiently. Michael found my suitcase in the closet and packed it with clothes while I sorted through my medications and personal items. Every few minutes, I'd need to sit and rest, but the determination never wavered. "What about the rest of your things?" Michael asked, gesturing to the bookshelves and desk. "I'll come back for them when I'm stronger or Dad can bring them. Right now, I just need to get out of here." We were nearly finished when my bedroom door opened without a knock. Mom stood there still in her bathrobe, surprise evident on her face as she took in the open suitcase and packed bags. "What's going on here?" she demanded. I took a deep breath and met her gaze directly. "I'm leaving." She laughed, a short, dismissive sound. Don't be ridiculous. You can barely make it to the bathroom by yourself. Where exactly do you think you're going? Michael's apartment for now. After that, I don't know yet. But I'm not staying here. Her expression hardened. This is exactly what I was talking about yesterday. Impulsive, dramatic decisions instead of practical thinking. You're in no condition to leave. I'm in no condition to stay. I countered, my voice steady despite the trembling in my limbs. Not after what you said. What I said? She looked genuinely confused, or perhaps she was just a masterful performer. I don't know what you're talking about. Michael stepped forward, positioning himself slightly between us. You told Madeline you hate everything about her. Mom's face flushed. I most certainly did not. Madeline, your condition is clearly affecting your memory or perception. I would never say such a thing. The gaslighting was so expected that it almost made me laugh. Almost. You did say it, Mom, yesterday right there. I pointed to the spot where she'd stood. When I asked for the blue blanket, you said you hate everything about me. My neediness, my weakness, my artistic pretensions, my relationship with Michael. Everything. Her expression shifted from denial to justification in an instant. Well, if I said anything like that, which I doubt, it was obviously because I was frustrated. You have no idea how difficult it's been taking care of you, rearranging my entire life. Stop! I held up a hand. Just stop. I'm not doing this anymore. I stood up from the bed, ignoring the protest from my knees. For 29 years, I have twisted myself into knots trying to become someone you could approve of. I chose a career I hate because you thought art was impractical. I straightened my hair because you said curls were unprofessional. I dated men you deemed appropriate before Michael. I hid my drawings like they were something shameful. My voice grew stronger with each admission. And none of it was ever enough. There was always something else wrong, something else to fix, some other way I was disappointing you. That's not fair, she interjected. I've only ever wanted what's best for you. No, I said firmly. You wanted what you thought was best. You never once asked me what I wanted or needed. I heard footsteps on the stairs and turned to see my father and brother appearing in the hallway, drawn by the raised voices. What's going on? Dad asked, looking bewildered. Madeline is having some sort of breakdown, Mom said dismissively. She's confused, making accusations. I'm leaving, I interrupted. Mom told me yesterday that she hates everything about me, and I'm done trying to earn the love of someone who sees me as nothing but a disappointment. Dad's face paled. Janet, you didn't? The fact that he believed me without question spoke volumes. Mom turned on him. Oh, so you're taking her side now after all these years of me sacrificing everything for this family. There shouldn't be sides, Tyler said quietly from the doorway. My brother, usually so detached from family drama, looked sad, but unsurprised. Maddie's sick, Mom. She needs support, not criticism. I've given nothing but support, Mom insisted. Who do you think has been bringing her meals, driving her to appointments, rearranging her entire life, while reminding me every single day what a burden I am? I finished for her. That's not support, Mom. That's obligation with resentment. Michael had finished packing during our confrontation and now stood beside me, a steady presence. The car's right outside. I can carry everything. Mom's face hardened as she realized I was really leaving. Fine, go. Run away when things get difficult. That's always been your pattern. I almost took the bait, almost defended myself against this latest accusation. Instead, I simply shook my head. Goodbye, Mom. I'll be in touch when I'm ready. I turned to my dad and brother. I love you both. This isn't about you. Dad stepped forward and hugged me gently, mindful of my pain. I'll check on you soon, he whispered. Tyler gave me an awkward but sincere side hug. Text me your new address. I'll help move the rest of your stuff whenever you want. Michael gathered our bags while I made my slow, painful way down the stairs, refusing any help despite my body's protests. This was my stand to make my journey to begin on my own 2 feet, no matter how unsteady. Mom followed us to the front door, switching tactics from anger to wounded maternal concern. Madeline, please. You're not thinking clearly. You need care right now, medical supervision. I'll manage, I said, not looking back as Michael helped me to his car. As we pulled away from the house where I'd grown up, where I'd spent decades trying to become lovable, I felt a curious lightness despite the physical pain racking my body. "Are you okay?" Michael asked softly. I watched my childhood home recede in the side mirror until it disappeared around a corner. "No," I answered honestly, "but I think I will be." Michael's apartment became my sanctuary. The first week was physically brutal as my body reacted to the stress of moving and confrontation, with a severe flare-up of symptoms. But unlike at my parents' house here, I could rest without judgment, take medications without skeptical glances, and most importantly, begin to rediscover who I actually was beneath decades of maternal expectations. "You should take the bed," Michael insisted that first night preparing the couch for himself. "We can share," I suggested. "Just be careful of my left side today." That night, falling asleep with his gentle, steady breathing beside me felt like the first real peace I'd known in months. Recovery came in small increments. The first day I could shower without needing to rest afterward. The morning I managed to make my own tea. The afternoon I sat at Michael's kitchen table and opened my sketchbook for the first time in months. My hands trembled as I held a pencil, partly from medication side effects and partly from emotion. Drawing had always been my private joy, my secret rebellion. Now in this safe space, I allowed myself to create openly. "That's beautiful," Michael said, pausing behind me to look at the simple sketch of his houseplant by the window. "It's rusty," I replied, seeing all the flaws, "but it feels good." A week after leaving my parents' house, my phone lit up with my father's number. "Your mother wants to talk," he said after asking how I was feeling. "I'm not ready," I told him honestly. "I understand," he said, surprising me. Dad had always been the peacekeeper, the one pushing for family harmony at any cost. "She's struggling to understand what happened." "What did happen, Dad? From your perspective?" His long pause spoke volumes. "Your mother loves you," he finally said, "but she's never known how to show it without trying to control you." "That's not love," I said softly. Another pause. "No, I suppose it's not." 2 weeks after moving out, I called my company's HR department to discuss my options. My medical leave was halfway over, and the thought of returning to a job I'd chosen solely to please my mother now seemed impossible. "I can't go back," I told Michael that evening. "Not to that particular job anyway." "Then don't," he said simply. "We can manage on my salary until you figure out what you actually want to do." "I can't ask you to support me," I protested. He took my hands, careful of the inflamed joints. "You're not asking. I'm offering. Partners support each other, Maddie. Besides, I make more than enough with the new project." The generosity of his offer brought tears to my eyes. No one in my life had ever prioritized my happiness this way. "I think," I started hesitantly, "I think I want to try selling my art online. Just small pieces at first while I'm building my strength back." Instead of the practical objections my mother would have raised, Michael immediately opened his laptop. "Let's set up an Etsy shop tonight." My first online sale came 3 weeks later. A small watercolor of Boston Common in autumn. The notification email arrived while I was at a physical therapy appointment, learning exercises to help manage my joint pain. Someone actually bought my painting. I marveled, showing Michael my phone when he picked me up. The first of many, he predicted. He was right. Sales were slow at first, just 1 or 2 pieces a week, but each order felt like validation that had nothing to do with my mother's approval. I also began seeing a therapist, Dr. Levine, who specialized in chronic illness and family dynamics. Our weekly sessions became crucial to my healing, both physical and emotional. "Your mother's criticism served a purpose for her," Dr. Levine explained during one session. "It gave her the illusion of control in a world where she felt powerless. Understanding that doesn't excuse her behavior, but it might help you process your experiences." Slowly, I began to untangle my self-worth from my mother's opinion. Each small decision made for myself rather than to please her felt like reclaiming a piece of my identity. 4 months after leaving my parents' house, I officially resigned from my marketing position and committed to art full-time. My condition had stabilized with proper treatment, and while I still had bad days, they were becoming less frequent. That same week, Michael proposed. There was no grand gesture, just a quiet moment on the balcony of what was now our shared apartment watching the sunset. "I want to build a life with you," he said, offering a simple ring with a small emerald instead of a diamond. "A life where you get to be exactly who you are." I said yes through happy tears, then immediately worried about telling my family. "We don't have to tell them right away," Michael assured me. "This is about us, not them." But that weekend I called my father and brother to share the news. Both were genuinely happy for me. "Mom's been seeing someone too," Dad mentioned cautiously. "A therapist. She wouldn't want me telling you, but I think you should know she's trying." I absorbed this information with cautious optimism. "That's good to hear. She asks about you," he added. "Every day." "I'm not ready yet," I told him. "But maybe someday." Planning our small wedding became a joy rather than the stress-filled production my mother would have insisted upon. We chose a date 6 months away, a garden venue, and a guest list of only 30 people. "Should we invite your mom?" Michael asked as we finalized the invitations. I considered the question carefully. "Yes," I decided, but with conditions. She comes as a guest, not as a wedding planner, and at the first critical comment she leaves. The invitation to my parents was sent with a handwritten note explaining my boundaries. A week later, I received a text from my mother, the first direct communication in nearly 6 months. "Congratulations on your engagement. I would be honored to attend your wedding as a guest. Mom." No criticism, no suggestions for improving our plans, just simple acceptance. It wasn't an apology, but it was a start. My art business continued to grow steadily. What began as occasional Etsy sales expanded into commission requests, and eventually a small feature in a local gallery. Each success on my own terms helped heal the wounds of my mother's lifelong disapproval. "I'm thinking of doing a full exhibition," I told Michael one evening as we prepared dinner together. "Something about transformation and healing." "You should," he encouraged. "Your recent work is your strongest yet." The central piece for the exhibition took shape over the following weeks. A large canvas depicting a woman rising from a sickbed surrounded by broken chains that transformed into butterflies at the edges of the painting. I titled it Liberation. 1 year after the day, my mother told me she hated everything about me. I stood in a small but well-respected Boston gallery surrounded by my artwork and the people who had supported my journey. Michael stayed close by my side, ready to help if my energy flagged. Tyler arrived early with a bouquet of wildflowers. Friends from art classes and online communities came to celebrate. And then 30 minutes after the exhibition opened, my parents walked in. The gallery hummed with conversation as I caught sight of my parents near the entrance. Dad looked uncomfortably formal in a suit that seemed slightly too tight, but it was my mother who captured my attention. She appeared smaller, somehow less imposing than the towering figure of my memories. Her hair was different, softer, with natural gray showing at the temples, instead of the harsh blonde she'd maintained for decades. Michael squeezed my hand. "Are you okay?" I nodded, suddenly unable to speak. A year of distance and healing had changed me, but seeing her still triggered an automatic tension in my shoulders, a reflexive bracing for criticism. "You don't have to talk to her," Michael reminded me gently. "This is your night." "I know." I took a deep breath. "But I think I'm ready." I watched as my parents moved slowly around the perimeter of the gallery, taking in each painting. Dad nodded appreciatively, while Mom's expression remained carefully neutral. They hadn't noticed me yet, standing partially hidden behind a partition displaying my smaller works. Tyler approached them first, giving Dad a quick hug, and Mom a more tentative greeting. He pointed in my direction, and suddenly 3 pairs of eyes turned toward me. The moment stretched between us like a thread pulled taut. Then I smoothed down my dress, a flowing artistic piece that the old Madeline would never have dared wear around her mother, and walked toward my family. "Thank you for coming," I said, embracing my father and nodding at my mother. "Wouldn't have missed it," Dad replied warmly. "This is incredible, kiddo." Mom stood awkwardly clutching her purse with white knuckles. "The gallery is lovely." She offered the kind of safe generic comment she made when unsure of her footing. An uncomfortable silence fell. Tyler glanced between us, then mumbled something about getting drinks and disappeared toward the refreshment table, taking Dad with him. Alone with my mother for the first time since that fateful day, I waited for the familiar anxiety to overwhelm me. Instead, I found a strange new steadiness. Would you like to see my favorite piece? I asked, surprising myself with the invitation. She nodded relief, flashing briefly across her features. I led her toward Liberation, the centerpiece of the exhibition. We stood before it side by side, but not touching both, studying the large canvas. This is, she began, then stopped, seeming to search for an appropriate comment. I waited, half expecting criticism about the technique or color choice or marketability. This is powerful, she finally said. I can feel the emotion in it. I blinked in surprise. Not once in my life had my mother acknowledged the emotional impact of my art. Thank you, I said simply. She continued to stare at the painting, at the figure rising from the bed, at the chains transforming into butterflies. Is this about that day? She asked quietly. Yes, I answered honestly. It's about what happened after. Mom's hands twisted around the strap of her purse. Madeline, I owe you an apology. The words I'd never expected to hear hung in the air between us. I stayed silent, giving her space to continue. What I said to you that day was unforgivable, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I've been in therapy since you left, trying to understand why I've been so controlling and critical, especially with you. She turned to face me fully. I don't hate anything about you. I was frustrated and overwhelmed, but that's no excuse. I took out decades of my own disappointments on you, and I'm truly sorry. The apology was so unexpected that I found myself momentarily speechless. A year ago, I would have immediately accepted it, desperate for any crumb of maternal approval. Now I took my time weighing her words against the lifetime of criticism that had preceded them. Thank you for saying that, I finally responded. It means a lot to hear. She nodded, seeming to understand that forgiveness wouldn't be instantaneous. Your art is beautiful, she continued, gesturing around the gallery. I should have encouraged it instead of pushing you toward what I thought was practical. Why did you? I asked the question I'd wondered about for years. Why were you so against my art? Mom was quiet for a long moment. I had dreams too once, she said eventually. I wanted to be a writer. My parents discouraged it just like I discouraged your art. I thought I was protecting you from disappointment. Instead, you became the source of disappointment, I said softly, not to wound, but to speak the truth we both needed to acknowledge. She flinched, but nodded. Yes, I became exactly what I feared for you. She gestured toward Liberation again. But look what you did. You broke free anyway. You're stronger than I ever was. An art critic approached us, then eager to discuss my technique, and the moment between my mother and me paused, but something had shifted. Not forgiveness exactly, but the beginning of understanding. Throughout the evening, I watched my mother from across the room. She spoke quietly with Michael, nodded appreciatively at various paintings, and once, when she thought no one was looking, wiped away a tear, while studying a small watercolor of a woman sketching by a window. Near the end of the night, the gallery owner clinked a glass for attention and announced that 3 of my pieces had sold, including Liberation, to a prominent local collector. Applause filled the room, and Michael appeared at my side, wrapping an arm around my waist. I'm so proud of you, he whispered. As people began to leave, my mother approached me once more. Your father and I should head home, she said. But I wanted to tell you. She hesitated, seeming to struggle with words, a rarity for her. I'm proud of you, Madeline, not just for your success tonight, but for standing up for yourself, even when it was against me. The admission cost her, I could tell. Pride had never come easily to my mother, especially admitting she had been wrong. Thank you, I said, and meant it. Perhaps, she ventured carefully, we could have lunch sometime when you're feeling up to it. A year ago, I would have immediately agreed, desperate to smooth things over. Now, I considered the invitation thoughtfully. I'd like that, I said. But I need you to understand that things are different now. I'm different. Our relationship needs to be different too. She nodded slowly. I understand. I'm trying to be different too. As my parents left Dad giving me one last proud hug, I felt not the closure of a chapter, but the cautious opening of a new one. The relationship with my mother would never be perfect, might never even be easy, but perhaps it could be honest. Michael came to stand beside me as I watched them leave. "How are you feeling?" I leaned into his solid presence. Tired, hopeful, a little scared. "Of your mom." "No," I realized. "Not anymore. Scared of forgiveness, maybe. Scared it makes me vulnerable again." He kissed my temple gently. "You're not the same person you were a year ago. You know how to protect yourself now." Looking around the gallery at my art displayed proudly on the walls, at the red sold dots, marking several pieces at the business cards collected from interested buyers, I knew he was right. The words that had once shattered me, "I hate everything about you," had ultimately forced me to discover what I loved about myself: my creativity, my resilience, my capacity to rebuild from the ground up. "Let's go home," I said to Michael, suddenly exhausted but satisfied. "We have wedding details to finalize tomorrow." As we left the gallery, I glanced back at Liberation one last time. The painting would go to its new owner next week, but its message would stay with me forever. Sometimes the greatest strength comes after your greatest weakness is exposed. My mother's cruelest words had become my most powerful catalyst for change. Have you ever had a moment when hurtful words unexpectedly changed your life for the better? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that standing up for yourself is sometimes the greatest act of self-love. Thank you for coming on this journey with me. And remember that even your darkest moments can lead to unexpected light.